Now what was it, 2 weeks ago or so, the Lamborghini broke down on me. Wasn't a big deal, it was just a dead battery. Well, today is an exciting day because for the first time on my YouTube channel, I am featuring my other car. This of course is the 2002 Audi TT Quattro. Now, I know you guys are just dying to hear a cold startup, so without further ado, here we go. This is exciting. Oh, the joys of car ownership. Now, I'm about 95% sure the car has a bad fuel pump, and unfortunately, this is not the first time this car has had a bad fuel pump. So today is story time. I'm gonna tell you guys about the time I was homeless, living out of this Audi TT for 58 days in Beverly Hills, California. Now, effectively, the Gallardo is my daily driver right now. I ordered a new fuel pump about 5 days ago. It's waiting for me up in Park City. Let's go. Now, the last time I was headed to go pick up a new fuel pump for my Audi TT, I was on a bus in Beverly Hills, California. I was headed to downtown LA. Now, I had no money in my pocket. I hadn't showered. It was pretty much the lowest point in my entire life. Now, fast forward, what is it, 3.5 years later, I'm doing the exact same thing, kind of. I'm headed up to Park City to pick up a new fuel pump for that exact same Audi TT. Yet everything has changed. For example, I was able to shower this morning. I slept in a bed last night. It's just funny how life kind of goes full circle. First things first, I've disconnected the battery, and here is the new fuel pump. $303 later. Now, there's really no other way of saying it. Simply, I was an idiot. So I graduated from Oregon State University and moved out to Park City, Utah. Got a job at Montage Deer Valley. And first job out of college, you know, nothing special. I was making 17 bucks an hour. But this is how you access the fuel tank. But after being at that job for about a year or so, I decided that I wasn't being paid enough because I was taking on more work than my coworkers who were being paid more than me. Now, if you guys are ever in a situation like this, don't do what I did, okay? Keep working hard, find another job, okay? I wish I would have taken my own advice, because instead, I marched into my boss's office, demanded a pay raise, of which he politely rejected, and then I put in my 2 weeks notice. 2 weeks later, I found myself without a job, so I went from $17 an hour to $0 an hour. Yeah, not a good situation. I put this screwdriver somewhere. In case you guys can't tell. Oh, you can't even see that. Can you see that now? Yeah. So, in case you guys can't tell, I've changed the fuel pump on this car before. Alright, so I'm jobless. So the brilliant person that I am, fuel pump. So the brilliant person that I am without a job, at this time I'd started my YouTube channel, and I had about, I don't know, 200 subscribers, let's say. I had a couple videos. The Veneno video had a lot of views, and so I thought, the brilliant 23-year-old that I was, that I would go do YouTube full time. So I packed up everything I owned in this Audi TT, and I drove down to Beverly Hills, California, with about $1,200 in my pocket, no real consistent source of income, and my plan was to live out of this car and go film supercars driving around in Beverly Hills. This is what I was thinking. This is what was processing in this brain. As I tell you guys, it's so stupid, my thought process. I've made some dumb decisions, and that takes the cake for sure. And so I found myself in Beverly Hills for, I don't know, I was there for about 4 weeks or so. And it wasn't a bad lifestyle, but it was pretty bad. Now, my lifestyle during these 4 weeks was incredibly boring. The first thing I did is I went to the grocery store, bought a loaf of bread, peanut butter, and jelly. Now, I didn't buy the bottled water because the off-brand cola was actually cheaper, so I went with that option. Now, I always slept in the driver's seat for one main reason. If for some reason somebody was upset that I was sleeping in the car, it'd be a very, very quick escape route. I'd just turn the car on and I'd be gone. Wake up, go to Beverly Hills, and film supercars all day long. And then, at the end of the day, I'd go to the local McDonald's, where I'd sit in there for about 4 hours, editing videos and uploading them to YouTube. And the reason for that is that McDonald's has free Wi-Fi. Now, the Wi-Fi is free, but it's also not very quick. That's why I was there for about 4 hours every single night. And so that was my daily ritual. Living out of this car, this tiny little Audi TT. And I was just trying to keep my expenses to an absolute minimum. Which was, it was about as basic as it gets. And then, one fateful evening in the middle of November, I had finished uploading a video to YouTube, left McDonald's like I always do, hopped in the car to go find a place to sleep for the night. And the car wouldn't turn on. So there I was at around 2 a.m. on Santa Monica Boulevard in Beverly Hills, California, with a dead Audi TT. That was my home, if you will. And I had no money either. So this is the fuel pump right here. We have this electrical connection, and then we have these 2 fuel lines we need to remove. So the electrical connection comes off pretty easy. But then these fuel lines, there is still fuel in there. So, use this rag. They're never easy to get off. I had just filled it with fuel, so the fuel tank is completely full. It's amazing how a smell can remind you of a situation in life so much. All right. Now at this point, there really wasn't much I could do except for just sleep in the McDonald's parking lot in my dead Audi. So that's exactly what I did. Then the next morning, I was able to sort of diagnose what the issue might be, and I determined that it was the fuel pump with about 95% certainty. And so I called Audi Santa Monica, and I called an independent Audi service facility. Now, Audi Santa Monica, they quoted me at like $1,200. Now, I only had around $1,000 in the bank account, so that definitely wasn't going to happen. And then the independent shop quoted me at around $800, but that was just too high of a percentage of my savings to spend on the fuel pump. Now, I was in, contact with my parents during this whole ordeal, and, of course, they offered to loan me whatever it took to get the car fixed to come home. But, this was kind of my doing. I put myself in this situation because of a series of dumb decisions that I'd made. And so I felt like I kind of had to get out of it myself. I couldn't just, call my parents with the sob story, have them send me, a couple grand, to fix the car. Because what would I learn from that? And so, I told them that I appreciated the offer. Of course, my mom was like, worried sick about me. But I felt like I didn't have a choice. I was 23 years old at this time. I wasn't a kid anymore. So I had to figure it out myself. And so that's what I did. I ended up finding a fuel pump online. I bought it for around $300, just like this one today. And the biggest issue, though, is I don't have a mailing address. Like, you can't just put on the address, oh, the dead red Audi TT on Santa Monica Boulevard. Ship it there. And so, in talking with my parents, I found out that you can have a package directly shipped to a USPS post office. And so that's what I did. I had it sent to the Santa Monica post office, or at least that was the idea. That didn't end up working in theory. I'll get to that soon. But yeah, so I bought the fuel pump, but I couldn't afford the expedited shipping, of course, because I was broke. And so I had to do the economical shipping, which I think was about 3 to 7 business days. And of course it took 7 business days, you know, punctuated by a weekend on both ends. So I pretty much had to deal with a dead car for about a week and a half. Now, a funny tidbit from this whole adventure. So the morning after the TT broke down on me, I filmed this video. Now, as of today, it has over 2 million views, but trust me, don't go watch it. It's the dumbest video I've ever put on YouTube, and I definitely clickbaited on this video. But because of my circumstances, like, I needed the views, I needed the ad revenue so bad. But it's just kind of ironic that a video filmed shortly after this miserable situation got 2 million views. So now at this point, I have to sit around and I have to wait for 10 days for the new fuel pump to arrive. But the problem is that I'm parked at the McDonald's on Santa Monica Boulevard, and eventually McDonald's is going to tell me to get lost. And so I have to find a place where I can effectively park this car forever. And so I go searching out around Santa Monica on foot, and I find this place that's maybe 3/4 of a mile from the McDonald's. That's in a straight line though. The problem between that McDonald's and that parking spot is that there was a lot of hills, and there was no way I could push this Audi up any type of incline. I mean, 3.5 years ago, I was just as scrawny as I am now. And so I had to map out this intricate route that zigzagged around Santa Monica that was either flat or a slight decline, because I was gonna have to push the car all by myself. And so I mapped this route out. But of course, I'm in Santa Monica, and so I'm not gonna push this car during the day. I mean, there's traffic everywhere. And so over the course of the next, I think 4 or 5 nights, I woke up at around 4 a.m. because the town was just completely quiet, and I would push the car as far as I could. Usually I'd be able to push it, you know, about a 1/4 mile, and then I'd just be exhausted. And then I'd just, you know, dive into some 2-hour parking spot that I could find. And then that meant the next day though, I couldn't leave the car because I might get a parking ticket. And so I just did this every day for 4 or 5 days until I finally got the car to this parking spot where I could effectively leave it forever. Now this right here is one of the many curb rashes that I caused while pushing the car by myself around Santa Monica. So at this point, I'm now just waiting for the fuel pump, but of course I can track the package online. But the problem is that UPS is shipping the package, not USPS. Which means they're not going to ship this fuel pump to the post office in Santa Monica. So I'm able to contact them, and they tell me I can come pick it up at the downtown Los Angeles depot, UPS depot. And so that's what I ended up doing, hopped on a bus. But you have to remember, I grew up in a small town, so trying to figure out the Los Angeles bus system was very complicated, very stressful. I ended up taking like a 2.5, 3-hour bus ride around Los Angeles to finally go get this fuel pump. But finally, I had the fuel pump. Now, over the course of the past 10 days or so, I had studied how to change the fuel pump on the Audi TT. I'd went out, I'd bought every single tool that I needed. So when I got that fuel pump, I was ready to go. And so that's what I did. I was on a street in Santa Monica, California, $1 million mansions everywhere, and I changed out that fuel pump. I was like a surgeon in there. I knew exactly what to do. And sure enough, the car started right up. So I have now changed the fuel pump on this car. I wasn't able to show you guys the footage because I don't know how to say this. First off, you have to put your hand down into the fuel tank, so I wasn't about to touch my camera equipment. But also, I wouldn't consider myself a person that gets upset very often. I never lose my temper. But there's something about working on a car that gets me so frustrated. I think a lot of you guys can probably relate. But anyways, the new fuel pump is in the car. I wonder if she's gonna start up. All right, here we go. Take one. Come on, baby. Oh, come on. I hate cars. I spent $5,233.55 on the European trip. I put that in the title of this video as well, so that nobody gets upset at me. Now, I was calculating these expenses the other day, and you should have seen my eyes when I got to that final tally.